What's going on, you guys? Jasati out here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me once again on the Night Out podcast. You guys, we're chugging right along. We're on our way to 1,000 episodes. I'm so excited. I can't even keep the joy contained anymore. But this is part of the process, right? I get to gush a little bit. I get to share a little bit. I get to ruminate, what is that word? Ruminate a little bit. And either way, I feel really good about the kind of content that I'm putting out. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I feel good about. This is what makes me happy, what makes me think, what makes me second guess myself sometimes. These are the things that I worry about. These are the things that keep me stuck in my head all day, and so I end up procrastinating. I want you to know all of it. It's not always just the good stuff. I want you to know the bad stuff too. I want you to know the bad habits that I have and the things that I'm trying really hard to change right now. Like how many times I've started over trying to do this gym thing, and I'm trying to do it a little bit every day. Not some big ass workout, just in the house, jumping jacks, push-ups. Yeah, I've done so many times I can't even tell you how many times I've started. But the point is, I will keep on starting. I may take a whole month off and then I'll come back again and do like 3 days in a row and feel like really great, and then something or other will happen and I will make an excuse. So the point is, this whole podcast is meant to show you exactly what it looks like as a single mom, as an entrepreneur, whether I have the skills or don't have the skills. Some days when I feel like I can ask for help, and some days where I just don't want to because I'm afraid the answer will be no. I'm just going to save myself the trouble anyway. My point, talking, ranting, discussing all of these things, is to give you insight into how every day looks for me. It's not meant to sugarcoat anything. I'm not meant to be here and be like, oh my God, please buy this. It's not like that at all. I want you to see who I am for real. I want you to hear who I am for real. There's no pretense. There's no makeup. There's no auto-tune on this one. It's just me every day. And if you can handle it, well, guess what? I'm happy to have you here with me. Today, actually, I want to talk to you about Rich 20-something. He now goes by his actual name, which is Daniel Di Piazza, but he's been in and out of the social media game for about a year and a half now, mostly because he's rebranding. He's redoing everything that he used to do. He no longer is Rich 20-something. He's older than that. He's already hit 30, I think. But he had a couple of comments that he posted in Instagram, and I wanted to talk about one of them in particular because I think it has space for us to expound and discuss a little bit. So he says, pleasure is not the same thing as happiness, and confusing the two will keep you stuck in a loop until pleasure turns to pain. And I felt that on a very basal level, mostly because I've done things before. I've chased pleasure before, only to find out that it didn't quite fulfill me. I didn't feel that complete happiness. I didn't feel like I was doing it for myself. I felt like I was chasing something that was temporary, which meant that I'm going to have to get a fix every so often. You see what I'm saying? So if I'm chasing happiness, it's different. I know that I'm creating happiness everywhere I go. I'm learning to be accepting. I'm learning to be grateful. I'm learning to notice more opportunities and more places where things make me happy or people make me happy. I gravitate toward those things that enhance the happiness that already exists within me. But when I flip it and I'm looking for pleasure, it's like I have to get a fix every so often. It's like drugs. It's like alcohol. It's like sugar. It's like salt. It could be any one of those things. But the point is, every time I chase pleasure, that means there's a clock on it. It's going to run out at some point, which means I need another hit. Now, I'm going to give you one of my vices. Tarot and oracle card readings. There have been times where I'm so lost and I don't know what to do, and I want someone to tell me. I just want someone to tell me because I don't want to guess anymore. I don't want to, play at this. I want to know. Just tell me what's going on and I will go from there. But here's the problem. I will go look at an oracle card reading and it will make me feel good for about 5-10 minutes, and then my thoughts kick back in and I'm like, yeah, but what if it's, the moments pass. It was good for that moment and the moments pass and I need another hit. I need to know again if things are going to be okay or not. So I'm no longer trusting myself. I'm no longer trusting the process. I'm no longer trusting that the universe has my back, and I'm chasing this high. It's a temporary high. It's just for a moment, and for some reason I'm stuck on a loop. It's true. It turns into pain. It's almost like suddenly now I'm looking at all these tarot card readings and every one of them says something different, and now my intuition is muddled. I don't know if it's for me or not for me. I don't know if the universe is confused. I don't know. And suddenly it becomes painful. And I get into this situation where I feel like, no, I need to block all these things. I need to stop looking for all this stuff because I can't tell what's what anymore. All the messages are garbled. All of them are coming up from different places. I don't get it. So at that point, I got to stop. It's almost like I got to block completely and go on about my business. I've had this happen in other situations as well. Unfortunately, they were my relationships. I sought out physical affection compliments because I thought that meant happiness. I thought that meant that that person liked me. And then, of course, it turns out that they didn't like me as much as I had hyped it up in my head, and my feelings get hurt, right? Because I'm chasing this momentary feeling. What happens between dating and then moving in together is completely miles apart. People don't seem to realize, and I think I've talked about this many times before in other podcast episodes, where when you're dating, you clear your entire schedule, you've set aside time and space to go be with this person, so you enjoy their company completely. When you move in together, it's completely different because now you have your own schedule, your own ideas of what to do, how to do it, how you spend your time, your energy, how you leave the toilet seat up or down. All of that stuff is different. And where you thought you may have had a chance to actually talk about those things when you were dating, you probably didn't because it never came up. Why would you talk about stuff that never comes up, right? So the mundane leaves room to be explained and questions to be answered. And until you come into that situation where you have to address it, you're not gonna. So here I was chasing a momentary piece of pleasure, something that made me happy in the moment because maybe I just needed a hug. Maybe I needed a compliment. Maybe I wanted to be on someone's arm for a little while and they showed me off like I was arm candy or something like that. And it made me feel good in the moment because I've never had that before. But what I also realized, unfortunately, in those two relationships was whenever I was on that person's arm, it was good for while I was in front of people. Then when we get home, because we were living together at that point, it was like we'd go back to our corners and he would do his thing and I would do my thing and we didn't speak. It was almost like we occupied space around each other, but we were not living together. We were almost like flatmates. And even then, I know flatmates speak to each other. I would call him for dinner and he would eat on his own, quietly looking at his phone and eating. And it was not, we never had conversation. So the happiness I was looking for that I could have been building, I didn't have because I was chasing the wrong things. So when Daniel Di Piazza talks about the fact that pleasure is not the same thing as happiness, I totally get it. And it brought back a lot of memories of things that I had done and chased for all the wrong reasons, realizing that it's not going to make me happy. Let's talk about sex for a second. Because honestly speaking, the physical affection that you think you get from sex is not actually affection. It's a means to an end. People will do what they need to feel good at the end of the day. But it's not the fact that you're showing love. You're not making love. You're just having sex. So I think that that's probably the most graphic way that I can explain the difference between pleasure versus happiness, because once you're done and you wash up and put your clothes back on, it's like, what do we do now? I feel close to you, but we're not going to talk about the fact that I feel close to you. We're just going to go on about our business. We're going to wash up and retreat to our corners again. And that, it's fleeting. It's almost like you've left a void now because you filled it with something for a moment and you left a void. Another feeling that I got, which was similar, it's not the same, obviously can't be compared, but I remember the summers when we were in Yogaville and we would have dance camp. And suddenly it would be a riot of color, tons of people coming and going, tons to do, lots of company. You can pick and choose who you wanted to spend time with because it was 50 girls for 5 weeks. We live and breathe dance together, right? And we grew together. And then suddenly at the end of the 5 weeks, everyone goes home and you're left with the overlook and a cul-de-sac and gray skies and quiet and crickets, and suddenly that flurry of activity is gone and you're left to your own devices and to deal with your thoughts all over again. The same thing happens with grief. I don't know if you realize this, but when something happens, like somebody passes and you have a funeral, and suddenly you have a flurry of activity. Everybody comes in, you've got bhajans, you've got prayers, you've got food to serve, people bring in food, people coming to visit, send their condolences, all kind of stuff. Tons to do. So honestly, you don't have a lot of time to deal with the grief itself. But once all of that dies down and they go back to their own lives, suddenly then you deal with all the spaces that your loved one filled, the parts of your schedule that you spent with your loved one. All of those things suddenly come crashing into the picture and you're left to deal with everything that you had avoided for a while. So this again is examples of pleasure versus happiness. We seek things that make us feel comfortable in the moment, not realizing that they are fleeting. They don't last the way that we want them to last. And unfortunately, we keep looking outside of ourselves for happiness. If we could just learn to focus on who we are and what we love about ourselves, where we can go that makes us feel connected to spirit, or make us feel like we're part of something bigger, or spend time with people that enhance our already, growing self-confidence. Those things help aid in our happiness. Unfortunately, pleasure is a sensation. It's like a touch on your arm. If I touch you, it's great while I touch you, but when I remove my finger, suddenly that pleasure is not there. The sensation isn't there. And so you're going to go looking for it again. Unfortunately, no one really talks about the differences between these two. I don't want to be dependent on someone else to be happy. I want to find moments when I'm with people and without people where I'm still happy, where I can maintain my happiness. It's all about me figuring out what I need, me figuring out what does luxury look like to me. When I built my life around my business and my daughter, I made sure I never needed anything outside of my house for us to be entertained and feel comfortable and feel like we had a luxe life. And so when COVID hit, we were not bothered. We didn't need an escape. We didn't need an excuse to get out of the house. Of course, like fresh air. But other than that, we were comfortable. We were used to being in the house anyway. I built my life on purpose because I wanted to be happy at all times. No matter what happened, no matter who came, who went, I wanted to be happy. And it took me years and years of chasing pleasure to realize that all that shit is fleeting. It is temporary. And suddenly when the sensation is removed, when that stimulus is removed, you feel its absence, and I didn't want that. So I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know if any of my analogies kind of hit the mark today, but there were a lot of them and they were very varied. But I would love to know how you feel about pleasure versus happiness. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. But I really want you to think about this, you guys. What are you seeking? What parts of you are you understanding? Are you looking to enjoy? Are you looking to enhance with the things that you keep around you? And what parts of your life are revolving around you seeking pleasure in the moment? A distraction, a momentary something that makes you feel good. Because understand this, all of those momentary things, the moment will end at some point, and then what do you need to do? What are you left with? How do you manage at that point? Seeking pleasure is a coping mechanism to trauma. So when do you decide you're going to love your own company so much that nothing and no one can compete with it? That's the real thing there. That was the biggest lesson I ever had to learn. I hope this helps you guys. I love you, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye.